Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I've got the all-new Nike G.T Hustle 2. You might be asking yourself, what is the G.T Hustle 1? I believe it was just the Nike G.T Run, and this is a continuation of that line. So let's see what they can do. Here we go. Now, to me, the original Nike G.T Run, I thought it had a really nice concept, right? I thought the silhouette was nice. The midsole was really nice. The rubber on it, I didn't really like the traction, and the uppers were just a little bit unforgiving in the lace line. The G.T Hustle, it really has changed a lot about the shoe. To me, the uppers look like a combination of the Nike Air Oscillate and the Nike Air Trainer 1, which two tennis shoes are near and dear to my heart. But that's kind of what I saw when I first took them out of the box. Now, in hand, they honestly feel a little bit cheap, but on foot, they feel very premium. It's a really kind of odd experience. Now, in the uppers, the first thing I like a lot is the tongue. It is mainly, kind of like a, foam neoprene, and it is a lot more forgiving to cranking the laces down, especially since you do get a runner's knot in here, and I used it, and I thought the lockdown on these was tremendous. The containment, it is okay. The flange on this is not as wide. It's not as much of a side-to-side kind of quick cutting shoe, but the actual lockdown is very, very good. Now, as you go into the toe box, really interesting, under the microscope, it doesn't really look like anything to the naked eye, but when you go under there, it is a little bit of a mixed style of textile, as well as TPU chain linking, which I absolutely love. And really surprising on the breathability test, these things only heated up 86.3 degrees, cooled down another 42.7 degrees. And it's weird because the shoe holds on to moisture pretty good, actually. When I brought them back, my last time I used them, it was only about 71, 72 degrees Fahrenheit outside, so it really wasn't that bad. And it was about an hour until I got them down into the studio from the last time I played in them to when I actually cut them open. They were still pretty damp in there from me sweating in them, so although they let go of heat very easily, they do hang on to moisture pretty good. And on the upper durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, it's weird that the burr just kind of shines up this drag guard here, this felt drag guard. It's real weird. It just kind of gives it a nice shine. These aren't the worst thing in the world to dragging or sliding, but there is no rubber reinforcement here over the midsole. So you are going to start wearing down that midsole if you drag a lot. These shoes just aren't made for it. The rest of the uppers, like I said, are pretty substantial once you get them on foot, and they break in very nice. This stitched jersey material that goes all the way through the uppers, number one, feels very hugging, right? It does conform to you pretty nice, but it also breaks in very nice as well. And getting into the midsole teardown, what my foot was feeling did not match up with what I saw underneath of it. The stack is incredibly low in the heel as well as in the forefoot. You only get one layer zoom strobel on this, and then it just feels like Phylon. I didn't find any actual stats on the shoe, but on the microscope looks like Phylon, feels like Phylon, and there's no shank in here, so you do need a pretty dense foam to hold the shoe up if you don't have a shank. The thing is I did not feel my foot bottoming on the ground on these at all. I did not feel any kind of increased shock from these, even after being on court, an outdoor court for a while. They still felt pretty comfortable. It is a dual density removable insole. It's a little bit thicker here in the forefoot. Remember, that's gonna bottom out. So if you want this to last longer, I would just put a real orthotic in there. If you look at it on the bounce height test, pretty interesting, 36.5 centimeters in the rear foot and then 44 in the forefoot. I think it's just because there's more air to foam ratio in the forefoot, and that's what kind of makes it bounce so much higher there in the forefoot. The one thing is, because there is no shank, this is going to start to break down. So if you do want the benefits of this shoe, which we'll talk about, it does need to be shielded somehow. But what is definitely the most interesting part of the GT Hustle 2, can't forget the 2, is its outsole tread. Now this is actual pods of herringbone going all the way from the tips of the toes to the heel. They get pretty spread out here in the midfoot. Then the pods get a little wider, and it's just a little more dense in the rear foot again. Now what's interesting is that this does have a very easy transition step, right? It does not stick to the ground. It's very easy to roll from one step to the other with these because you're kind of bouncing on these pods of tread, right? The bad part is that they don't grab as intimately as some other shoes will, where everything is just on one level. It is a continuous tread pattern, which is nice. It's just that there's so much gaps of tread, and normally on an outdoor court, large areas of tread is good, except for those large areas of tread, these circular pods are then broken up into small herringbones. The surface area isn't all that much. Now on an indoor court, after about 5-10 minutes of rubber warming, they do perform really well, and kind of the periphery of each one of these circles does give you kind of an extra little bit of grab. So I think honestly on indoor courts, these are great. On outdoor courts, they're not that tacky, right? You're gonna want something with more surface area, but an interesting design, and it does have its merits. But what is definitely the best part of the GT Hustle 2 is its speed ratio. It comes in at a 2.99, which is fantastic for a basketball shoe. And that's because, number one, they are bottom light. I mean, the uppers are light too, except, once you start sweating in them, then they start holding on to the moisture, then they start to feel heavier, so take that for what you will. But, because there's not a big stack on these, and because most of the cushioning is Zoom, these things, zoom around the court, all the pun in the world intended on that one. So if you are looking for a shoe that is, very, very swift and breezy on the court, not necessarily breezy in terms of breathability, which they are, but in terms of just getting from point A to point B, the name, GT Run or GT Hustle really holds up in this. Like I said, just watch out for when you start bogging the shoe down. I probably would bring a couple of different pairs of socks. That way, at least if the sock is, retaining that moisture that the shoe is too, you can change those socks and then keep feeling that nice kind of light, easy feeling in these over the course of a game. And on the outsole durability test, 10 seconds high grit sandpaper, this is the EP version. So, really not even a millimeter of damage on the dyed rubber or the translucent rubber. The durometers were pretty high on this. Now remember, the non-EP version is gonna be significantly lower than that. Usually on the EP versus the standard, you're getting about a millimeter of damage on the standard version, right? And the durometer is quite a bit lower. So I honestly don't know why there is even an EP version on this, because the EP version is not going to grab into an indoor hardwood court as well as the regular version is, and I just don't see these as a great outdoor shoe anyway. So, I mean, if you want them to last longer and don't care about the rubber warming, then the EP is okay, but I think just the standard version is going to give you the traction that you want, as well as, I get, okay durability as long as you keep them indoors. And getting into the fit of the Hustle 2, pretty true to size type shoe. It is pretty hot dog shape, so narrow medium foot needs to go true to size. A 2E, I think can go true to size because they break in really well. You're gonna have some cramping at first. If you just, want more room, just go up a half size into the lockdown on these. Like I said, very nice, supports an orthotic really well as well. And speaking of orthotics, I do think that over the long run, if you want these to stay fresh, I would say I probably would be putting an orthotic in these, even if it's a really low profile one, just something to shield the midsole in there, just because, like I said, there is no shank. Now, that also has implications for what these are good for. While they are new, I think ball of foot pain, these are fine. Tendonitis, arch pain, arch strain, heel pain, like I said, because they are so flat and the stack is so low. If you do suffer from those kind of shock-inducing type injuries, like I said, I would throw an orthotic in there, and I think that they're fine. It's just, if not, very quickly you are going to start noticing how low to the ground you are once, like I said, this, the Phylon or the carrier foam starts breaking down. And last but certainly not least, getting into the playability of the GT Hustle 2, I like them because they were lightweight and bouncy, right? And so someone like me who's a little bit overweight and not so bouncy, they feel really good while they're new. I also really liked the break-in profile of them. They started to feel really buttery to me on court. They're not the most nimble things on the planet, right? In terms of kind of getting out of your own way, doing really quick, shifty movements. I can tell when a shoe is not that shifty a lot better than somebody else will, because my skills aren't that great. So somebody who has really, elite level skill can kind of mask the shortcomings of a shoe, right? Because it's the person in the shoe that's doing the work, right? That the shoe's not going to make you LeBron James, right, or Steph Curry, as much as I wish it would. But I think in terms of a shoe that feels super lightweight underfoot and is just really kind of easy to get up and down the court with, especially I think if you have an orthotic in them. These are really nice. I think in terms of the way Nike designed these shoes, I think they really hit the nail on the head. Whereas versus on like the GT Cuts, I'm not sure who they're selling that shoe to. There's plenty of people in the comment section on the GT Cut 2 that tell me I'm wrong and that they're the most great court feeling shoes out there and they can make quick cuts and do this and that. And I'm very happy for them. To me, I just don't notice that. They feel too bottom heavy. They feel like you're just too high off the ground. There's too much going on. Whereas in the runs, or I should say the Hustle 2s, I really feel like they're made to do that. They are made to go coast to coast. They're made to feel really nice and easy for someone that tries to out hustle somebody else. I know I'm like, like a marketing arm of Nike saying that, but it really, to me, rang true with these. If you're looking for a shoe to assist you with really quick cuts, jab steps, things like that, I think you just gotta look somewhere else. But if you're looking for a shoe that is light, breezy, airy, can get you up and down the court, very easy, almost like you're floating on a cloud going down the court, then it's a good pickup. Like I said, not for everybody, but for the player these are intended for, I think they're a great pickup. And speaking of picking stuff up, I finally got around to making actual like branded physical products. Those are down below if you want to check those out. You can click the link right in the actual video right above the description. And if the only thing you want to buy is shoes, then make sure you click into this video up above about the GT Cut 2, kind of see what I'm talking about with that shoe, and make sure you subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.